Welcome. It is no accident that you have found your way to the Release the Genie podcast. What would you do with 3 wishes? And what if you discovered that you are in fact that very genie that could grant them? Well, join us now as we discover who our next genie is as we listen in and learn the stories of triumph, inspiration, and passion with some very special guests. And now, without further delay, your host of the Release the Genie podcast, Mr. Paul Rogers.
So good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you're tuning in from. Oh my God, I've got a wonderful guest genie today, the lovely Christine Patton. Now, let me just give you a flavor of this. She is an ex-lawyer who has escaped. There's not many of us who's done this, so this is wonderful. She's got my heart completely right from the off. So a founder and chief inspirator of the Power Within elite performance coaching, helps other corporate people who may need the help, which we needed, to get their dream opportunity and to leverage their natural talents. Talk me through that. And is also the host of, at the moment, voiceamerica.com, but soon to be podcast. So let me introduce the wonderful Christine. How are you doing?
Hi, Paul. You said this is a challenge. I'm going to make you blush. I'm blushing already. You're really funny. Thank you for having me here today. I feel honored to be invited.
So I've set the back scene and made you blush. So let's. If you
We're done. Bye-bye.
Yeah, it's over now. You see, the lawyer front is back. Right. So I wonder if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Absolutely. As you mentioned, I began my working career in law, as you did. We have that in common. It didn't take me long to realize it wasn't for me. So I was a litigation specialist and I did motor vehicle accident work, and I acted for the defense. I acted for the insurance company. That was our main client in our firm. And let's see, I practiced for 8 years, and I was getting sicker and sicker and sicker, all of me, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. Anyway, so I was off for a little bit. And in the meantime, I'd also had 2 kids. So try to raise a family and practice law. And my ex-husband was a lawyer as well. Then I became, so I retired from law for the first time, but being at home, it's not exactly for me. I loved having the opportunity to be with my kids. Don't get me wrong, but being trained as a lawyer, I needed a career too. So anyway, I ended up about a year after that going back to work as a part-time deputy judge in small claims court. And that was really cool because I could work. I was allowed to work whenever I wanted, really. They gave me many sitting days because I didn't practice as well at the same time. That's all I did. And so I could get out of the house. I could use my brain. I could talk to adults. So I did that for 7 years, and then I realized that I had another love that was emerging. And so I retired. I became a speaker, and, having been at home and having the opportunity to heal and to learn started coming to me, which I'm hoping we can get to a little later, some bizarre stuff. And so the stuff I was talking about was what really lit up my heart. And it's, the reality in which we live, the stuff of life is what I began speaking about. And then I began, and again, my life has been kind of a gentle unfolding or blossoming or whatever analogy helps to understand. Because both my kids were high achievers, and my daughter danced and my son was a soccer goalkeeper and a hockey goalie. Guard the keep mentality. I was often asked to give motivational talks to the kids. And so I did. And then coaches and parents and it was fun. I mean, I just like doing it. Everything I did, I was in the schools by this time. I was talking to kids because I was a lawyer. But I would always turn it around to something that I thought was very useful in life and ways they could apply thinking about what they wanted to do in a career or something. And so I started coaching sports teams. I had coaches and parents say, you're really good at this. So I did that too. So I started my mental edge in sports performance. And I grew both practices slowly but surely. I'm still at home with my kids, and they're very busy kids. Ended up writing a book. I started in January of 2010 as a result of being in the schools. So both kids were in high school by this time, and I was often asked to come in as a motivational speaker. And so I remember one day leaving, and I had this pain in my heart, and I felt this overwhelming terror. And I thought, what the heck is that? And I realized I just left a classroom of terrified kids. And it was usually the leadership classes, the grade 12, talking about the state of the world and what they were going to do to help it. And they had no clue. And, I'd ask them, so do you know what you want to be when you grow up, kind of thing. And the pressure on kids these days to know who they are, to know what they want to do, and to go out there and kill it is enormous. And they really had no clue. And so the world was terrifying to them. And I thought, well, I want to help them with this. So I kind of rejigged my talks, and I brought a little more information to the table for them. And then I ended up writing I know what happened. After one of the leadership classes, one of the teachers sat me down and said, your stuff's great, but you're never going to make a huge living as a speaker, which I don't agree with. He said, here's what you do. He said, you write a book. And he said, at the time, he said, why don't you write a handbook and do a 20-minute DVD, talk about your stuff. And he said, I'm telling you, teachers will eat it up. And so the next day I started writing, and I wrote and I wrote and I wrote until I had nothing left. So that was about till August. And then my life was changing significantly then. And so I put it on the shelf for a while, and eventually it was published. And my launch party was November 26th of 2015. And it was one of the best days of my life. It was beautiful. In the meantime, I had become a HeartMath certified practitioner and trainer. That was July of 2015. And that has been a true cornerstone of my life. And so fast forward, I was asked to host a radio show this past July, which began in October with voiceamerica.com. I'm on the business channel. My show is called Unstoppable You. And in it, we talk about issues of empowerment, resilience, and passion. And we can talk about that in a minute, how I came to that. And I also write for publication in the States. It's for lawyers, and it's called The Modern Esquire. My friend Paul Denny, who practices law and has two companies on the side. I don't think he sleeps. I write every second week, and I've discovered a new love for writing. I actually look forward to and crave writing, flowing those creative ideas, I would say, onto the page, except it's into the computer. So that's me. That was a really long, sorry answer.
To be honest, no, because each part I can see that whenever you change, you take the lesson and you take the next part. So it's not a question of shut the door, forget about it. It's, well, how can I actually change and adapt this from sports teams to high school students, then to writing? So there's always a theme of if there's a kind of a thread that goes through all of it. So
of course, and I look at it as foundational. I mean, as you lay more of a foundation, you can ascend the ladder or the stairway or whatever it is we're talking about.
And I think, looking after and talking to kids, because there's a severe pressure of performance, all results, when actually that may not be the right advice they need at that stage.
Good one. Well, I mean, the bottom line is, what is, we talk about results, we talk about success. Well, is success results? Mm-hmm. What is that to you? What does success mean to you? And, mainstream at the time, and I believe it still is money, stuff, fame, and power. Mm-hmm. And well, look where we are in the world. And, I mean, it's not that it's not valuable, and it's not that it's not powerful to have all of that, to be all that, to become more of who we are. But at the end of the day, if you haven't got the other pieces, if you're not happy, if you're not healthy, if you don't have healthy, solid relationships with the ones you love, what good is all of that? Right. So, my advice was, if your parents are telling you to become a doctor because you'll make a lot of money, guess what? You're probably it's not that it's bad advice, but if you're not meant to do that, you're going to kill yourself for years, and you will dread going to work on Sunday afternoon like I did. And I know you did too.
No, I mean, to be honest, it's great because you're potentially saving somebody years of going down a dead end, when in fact, if they took a path which they're more naturally aligned with, And you're right, success is very much a subjective thing. So,
Very true.
wow. Well, we may have already touched on it, but what was kind of one of your aha, release the genie moments?
I didn't have anything cataclysmic like your story. As I say, it's been gentle unfolding and blossoming and gentle pats, to keep me on that tapestry of life that I believe we are predestined for. How we color it is our choice. And I recently downloaded that idea, and that serves me. It doesn't have to serve anybody who's listening. But okay, so it's kind of a wacky story, and I know this is the place for wacky stories.
No.
So
what are you saying,
oh, did I say that out loud? I don't mean wacky. I just
be
mean
wacky. We love that. My audience
love wacky. I can be wacky now. I'll turn on the wacky button and then I'll turn it off. Well, what happened was, I alluded to in the beginning that I practiced for 8 years and I had 2 kids by that time. And I was not well. I wasn't sick by any official diagnosis, but I had zero energy. I dragged myself through every day. I was foggy. I was achy. I was in pain. I was slightly nauseous all the time. I felt like I had a temperature all the time, kind of a fibromyalgia kind of thing going on. And so anyway, I ended up beginning my journey with naturopaths. And I have always had a naturopath for the last 26 years. I have. So this was just after my son was born. He was my second child. Anyway, so I had been to so a couple of years in of this healing journey, this physical healing journey. I was sitting in the office of one of my naturopaths in London, Ontario. I'm from Ontario. And he was behaving very strangely. I mean, we were using the global system and it was the usual, but he was like wiping his nose and sniffing, and he kept rolling his rolly chair to the door in the office and opening it and looking out. And like he did that 3 or 4 times, I think. And I finally said, "What the hell are you doing?" And he said to me, he said, "Chris," he said, "I don't want to be the one to tell you this." And I said, "Oh my God, I'm dying." He said, "No." In fact, quite the opposite. Like, shut up. Anyway, he said to me, no kidding, "There's a giant native in my hall and he's tickling my nose with a feather and he's telling me to tell you that you need to begin your spiritual journey and it starts today." Now, any sane person would have run screaming from that office, but I was ready. And I said, okay, I knew it was the right time. And as wacky as that sounds, that's when I began. That opened up my whole new life upon which the journey that I've been walking has rested. And so he said, okay, we talked a little bit about it. And here's the weird thing. This guy was an engineer and a chiropractor who was practicing naturopathy. He was not a woo-woo looking guy at all. In fact, I was gobsmacked that he was talking like this. So I thought, that's an interesting contrast, right? So anyway, he said, go to this bookstore on the way home and buy this book. And I did. And I read it. I ate it up. You know that thirsty sponge? I read it up. I don't remember what the book was. I think I still have it just because it commemorates my first step. And then I went back, my next appointment, and he recommended this workshop I go to. And I did. It opened more doors. And I met a woman who became my spiritual mentor for 6 years. She really birthed me. And I drove almost 2 hours to see her every month. And she practiced Reiki, EFT, EMF, all kinds of things. And she was a medium. And she truly was my mother in that aspect. So yeah, and after that, it was one book, one workshop, one whatever at a time. I grew my understanding about life. So I've been doing this work for about 25 years.
And you know, in a way, the wacky story is that when the student is ready, the teacher will appear.
Exactly.
So, you know, yes, you could have run from it. It just meant you weren't ready at that stage.
Right.
Or you were too scared to leave because a big native, you might not want to run out in the hall anyway, just in case they're there.
That's right.
Yeah.
Was he friendly? I don't know. I never saw him.
Well, if he's tickling somebody on the nose, I'm going to have to assume that's friendly because there's other things he could be doing.
Right. Good for you. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So
We're on the same wacky page. I love it.
so that was the start of my spiritual journey, built on, and as I've looked back, built on the skills that I developed as a litigation lawyer. I mean, I had to marshal evidence, as you understand exactly what this means. You do the same thing. I had to marshal evidence, and I had to persuade judges and juries. And if I wasn't good at it, I wouldn't have stayed in my job very long.
Mm.
So, and then after becoming a deputy judge, I mean, the law was not in small claims court in Ontario at the time. I mean, my jurisdiction was $10,000 and it wasn't complicated law. But what was complicated was dealing with people who didn't have counsel,
Yep.
and the prime emotions in court are anger and fear.
Mm.
Anger at being there because you're upset about something, and fear over not having a clue how to do this, and the judge is sitting there looking at you. So I was a formidable figure, not because that was me, but because that was my title and my position. And so I took very seriously that I wanted to educate people, and I wanted people to relax and tell me the story. And I also did not want to be appealed, and I didn't want to be embarrassed on appeal, and I wanted people to feel comfortable as they left the courtroom knowing why they won and why they lost. So I was known, I think, well, maybe in my own mind, but as a more compassionate judge, until you pissed me off, and then that door shut on you.
I was going to say, you might
shouldn't say that.
Yeah, no. When I first started,
delete.
I had district judges who like splash my guts around like wine
without even thinking they do that.
And I can still remember them however many years later. Anyway, let's see.
Yeah, those terrifying nightmares, they still come back to haunt. I know.
And they don't go away. So and that's another story. So
that's for next day.
Yeah, that's next time. So what would you say was one of your inspirational mantras which you have lived? Because you've lived quite a few different lives by accounts.
Yeah, kind of. In the same lifetime. So, I'm a reader. And I love to read. And to this day, I don't like reading on my devices. I love a book. So I have a huge library that just spills over all the time. And anyway, I suppose it's authors and there's been so many. Right now, right now. Okay, so I'll start where I am. Loving Tosha Silver, Tosha Silver. Love her stuff. Not Your Money. It's Not Your Money. That's good. Love Marianne Williamson. The Law of Divine Compensation, plus her work in Return to Love and the other books on love. Eat that stuff up. I love Greg Braden. I love Bruce Lipton. I love Joe Dispenza. And, they were on the island here in BC a couple of years ago, 3 years ago, I think 2011. And they're my rock stars. And if I could have gone, I think I just moved here. Not 2011, after 2016. I would have loved. So their work is amazing.
Yeah.
And
hey, if
Wayne Dyer,
got one, Wayne Dyer. I mean, to be honest, you've mentioned
Carolyn Mace, Louise Hay. Actually, Louise Hay's books I started reading. She was my introductory author who wrote many, and how to healing your life and stuff like that. So anyway.
I think you've actually there mentioned every single author who's ever signed for Hay House. But no, I mean, inspiring stuff and reading never gets old because you can read the same book and you get a separate message each time. So each of those authors you've said, that's something which you don't just read once and put away. It's something you can go back to depending on where you are in your life. So
it's true. And I do that all the time. In fact, it's the source of my writing. I will come across something that inspires me. Oh, I'm going to talk about that. For example, recently, and this didn't come from one of the books. It kind of did, but it didn't. My friend sent me a really interesting article about the social life of trees. And so very, very interesting. And I realized that, we're in a world of competition, and we need to learn how to cooperate and collaborate and create community because the trees have it. And so I wrote an article about that. I can pick up a book, if I'm, like I say, I'm a reader. And if I don't have anything new, I'm usually a crazy, wild person running around here. So I need new books.
Give this lady
Often.
a book.
Please, because something's going to happen that's really bad. So I'll go back and whatever strikes my fancy in the moment. And I'm telling you, Paul, this is what life is like for me now. I'll read something and it'll be like, yes, I'm going to write about that because it's timely, it's relevant, and it's helpful for me and somebody else. So that's how I do it.
I love it because, again, it kind of repeats itself about when it's the right time. So
yes, divine
that's
timing.
a wonderful, wonderful theme. So tell us, what are you working on at the moment? Because I'm dying to know.
Well, if I tell you,
this could be 180 degrees worth of. I don't know where this is going to go. So
yeah, I know, and I have nothing. I have nothing to report that's really earth shattering. I'm going to continue with my radio show, which I love doing, and continue to write, which I love doing. Well, the speaking, that's kind of the in-person speaking. Unfortunately, that hit my business pretty hard. But I am training law firms. I continue to do that. I've got a program called Resilience for Busy People, and it contains a lot of heart math, which is simple, easy techniques, breath, mindfulness, and conjuring. I like that word, probably because I'm a witch. Just kidding. Renewing emotion. And we don't need drugs. We don't need drugs. We don't need anything outside of us to fix us. We have all the tools that we need. So I continue to deliver those. Love my coaching program. And it's so flexible. You can work with me for a month. We can polish your image. You can be coached for 2 months, 4 months, 6 months. It's totally and flexible with price too. So continuing to do that. I may have something on the horizon that's completely different, but I'm not prepared to talk about it quite yet. So we'll see.
This is a cliffhanger. I'm loving this.
And I may be the one going over the cliff.
Yeah.
But you know what they say, you jump and you develop wings on the way down.
No,
and, oh my God, I'll probably have to.
Well, I've got into heart math, and I can vouch for how powerful and how good it is. So if anyone
Changed my life.
So if anyone is new to this, please talk to Christine, because it's worked for me, and I know it's worked for countless others. So
absolutely,
that's wonderful. So let's just dot back to, is there been any sort of adversity which you had to overcome?
Well, okay, so this is a good time to talk about this. So here's what happened, and I am getting to the answer to your question. I had been asked to do this radio show this past July, 2020. And I leaped on it. I thought, wow, then they found me. I never thought I'd be doing radio. I thought it was pretty cool. So I was thinking about what I wanted to do. Like, what's my theme going to be? What am I going to work on? And I was literally grilling chicken on my deck. So my first show was, I called it Eureka, Nuggets of Wisdom from the Barbecue Oracle, because that's where it came from. So
you use everyday objects.
Everything. Nothing escapes my attention. Nothing escapes worthiness in terms of pay attention to what's going on around you. Anyway, I was staring at the chicken, the inert chicken on my barbecue, and I went into this altered state for a minute, and everything in my life came clear. And what I saw was very clearly, as soon as I made a big empowered decision for myself, and I developed resilience in the fallout, because inevitably it was tough, I gained huge passion for my life and what I was doing, and the joy and the happiness and the bliss and everything that came with it. And so I also downloaded that my life, happens in a pattern of 15 years. So I was married for 15 years. I practiced law for 15 years. And until my show, I'd been coaching and training for about 15 years. So I thought, that's pretty cool. So really the big turning points in my life. And so these could be the cataclysmic things. I had to make huge choices. And the first one was to leave law altogether. So I kind of left law after 8 years of practice. I took a hiatus. I was home with my kids. anyway, let's leave that. And you know what? I have stunningly amazing kids, and I do believe it's because they were more important to me than anything else. And I couldn't be the good mom that I wanted to be. And anyway, so then I went back, as I said, in the courts, and I worked part-time for 7 years. And it took a lot to let go of that, because you work a long time, you go to school for a long time, you use all your resources, you develop your whatever. So I retired from law. That was big. And nobody thought my decision was a good one except me. They're like, you're walking away from that? You're a judge. Like, yeah, it's not working for me. Anyway, that was big. Faced a lot of stress. Anyway, then the next step was to leave a marriage that neither of us were happy in. Nobody did anything stupid. It was a complete breakdown of communication and everything else that happens, with 2 practicing lawyers, 2 kids, 2 busy lives, and then looking at each other going, who are you? I guess, I don't know. That was huge. And then the next one was in 2016. I moved by myself from Cambridge, Ontario to Kelowna, British Columbia, by myself. I knew nobody here. I mean, I had one friend in particular. Some other people were around, but I knew nobody. And I've been trying to, and had, built a practice over the last 3 years, and then COVID hit. It's like, that's great. But it's been going really well, and I have a great foundation here in Kelowna. But imagine moving by yourself.
Oh no!
I miss my kids every day. They're still in Waterloo, Ontario. So I just did that. But I was called, Paul. I had to come here. Like, I wasn't running from anything. I was called here. I now see why.
Just tell people what you can see out of your window, because we had it.
Yeah, I probably showed you. I am looking at a mountain range. So in Kelowna, we're in a valley. We're in the Okanagan Valley. And the mountains here are not big and imposing and craggy. They're kind of gently rounded. To me, they're more of a feminine style of mountain. So my office desk is facing out my window, and I see some houses, but I see trees, I see mountain. And if I look down, I can see Lake Okanagan. And I'm out as often as I can, enjoying nature. Yesterday, I was up at the ski hill, Big White, and I had a friend who was a little troubled. And you know what? By the end of it, we were laughing, and it's healing in nature. It's so important. And even in these times of COVID, don't listen. Don't stay in your house. Go and walk. Be among trees and plants and grass and water, because they're healing entities. They are. You'll feel better. We need fresh air, we need movement, and we need sunshine in our eyes and on our heads, in our pineal glands. So get out.
Great advice, as we are just about to head into another full lockdown. It's middle of December. My little boy actually is my cat. My little boy, he's actually being sent home to do homeschooling from a couple of days' time, and they're shut then till after Christmas. So great advice, which moves me swiftly and delicately into the wishes. So I get to ask you 3 wishes. So are you ready?
Shoot.
Yeah.
Wait, that's probably not the right word.
No. Hey, it's all right. We're Canadian. So
nobody bats an eye.
Nobody cares about that. Okay, here we go. So this is going to be a lot easier than your examinations in chief and your cross examinations. This is going to be a walk in the park. So, number 1, what was the best advice you have ever received in your life?
There's been a lot, but I'll tell you the latest one that sticks in my head right now, and I think it applies to a lot of people, because I get the same thing from my clients and my friends and colleagues. Don't be afraid of failure. It's part of success. Don't be afraid of failure. I mean, what is failure? It's merely learning, and it's always for our highest good. Yeah.
No, it's negative feedback is actually more worth and better teacher than positive feedback. So
nice to get the positive, though. That port in the storm is important. That's where we gather resources, we lay back and go, and get ready for the next. assault.
Yeah, no,
that isn't a good word either. But
no, it's a very good analogy. So my second wish is, what advice would you give your younger self?
Never give up. Never give up. And it goes along with this, resilience. Keep making empowered choices for me, which usually line up with how I can interact with others. And keep going. Stay in it to win it. I forget who the judge was on one of those singing shows, but he said it all the time. You got to stay in it to win it. And you do. Yeah. Keep going. I mean, don't struggle. Here's the advice. Don't struggle. Struggle is bashing your head against a wall with nothing changing for a long period of time. That is simply struggle, and that doesn't serve anybody. That's the sign that, okay, this might not be the best choice, or you need to tweak, or you have to make a change of some sort. So stop what you're doing and look. Yeah. But never give up. Never give up.
I love it because, it's... and I can see advice and also something you've carried forward. So awesome. So it's good. So
so what's the third
wish is, could you share one personal habit which attributes to your success?
My daily heart math practice. I do a whole bunch of things, but 15 minutes every day. And then I use a 5-minute game from my M-Wave to do a visualization practice. I do breath work. I do an affirmation, and I pray.
Awesome. Well, a great morning routine, which sort of helps
sets
start
my
the
day.
Yeah, starts the day well. Well, look, I'm going to see if I can... I'm going to ask you a book, because you love reading. So is there one or maybe a top couple of books which you could recommend?
Yes. One of the books that affected me very much, and has for a long time, and I think it came out in 2010, it's called Executive EQ. I've sold more copies of their book, I think, than my own. No, that's not true. And it's by Robert Cooper and Ayman Sawaf, Executive EQ. And I think it's an incredible tome for the ages, for the age we're going into. This is no longer about rational bottom line analysis in business. It's not about competition. It's not about scarcity thinking. It's not about ourselves. This is not about how to make money on the backs of other people. We are going into an age, I believe, of cooperation, collusion, community, collaboration. And this is more about going into our gifts and starting to use our intuition. They talk about intuition a lot.
Well, I think you're right, because adversity actually has shaped us into a different shape than where we were beforehand. So I can see that falling back on those rather than, as you say, the bottom line, that's what's going to get us. And redefining success, that's what we're a theme where actually success isn't based on materialistic goals.
Right. And this is about true leadership.
Exactly.
Leadership by people who, there are some people that move us. We admire them. We like them. We want to follow them. We want to take their advice. We want to do what they do. We want to be in their presence. What is it that inspires that? That is true leadership. And it's not just about being good at what you in your craft. This is about the heart-based living. This is about recognizing that, sharing your heart, opening your heart, being the servant leader, whatever it is you need to do to support your people and guide with love as opposed to anything else.
That's wonderful. It's love being one of the highest vibrational energies. So I love it. There you go.
Love it.
So I'm going to do a little summary now.
Sure. You're going to summarize all the stuff I just said.
There we go.
Oh, this is going to be good.
No,
I'm going to sit back and listen to you.
Someone who was a big change of the spectrum, from somebody who had to be very forensic in her work to actually embracing a whole new side of actually what she really was, and then finding what she liked to carry on and do, and then giving that advice in tailor-made motivational comments and talks. And to be honest, I can see that this is an ever-evolving process. So I'm quite excited to see where and where you go next. So thank you very much for being today's Genie. Where can people get hold of you?
Well, you can look at my website, PowerWithin.ca, or you can connect with me on email. I'd love to chat with you, Chris, CHRIS, at PowerWithin.ca. Yeah.
LinkedIn, you're on LinkedIn as well, because that's how I reached you.
Exactly. I'm on LinkedIn, Christine Patton. My company's Power Within. I am all over social media. I have 3 Facebook pages. Don't ask me why. Chris Patton, Power Within Coaching, and the Mental Edge in Sports Performance. I am on Twitter, Instagram, and LinkedIn. Yeah.
This lady is everywhere on social media. There's
probably sick of me yet.
There's no excuse why you can't find her. Well, right. Look, I'm going to say thank you once again. A phenomenal Genie. And guys, I hope you've been inspired and moved in equal measure. Please stay tuned for other great guests. Christine has been a complete force of nature. Show this lady the love. And if you want to chat, you know where she is now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Paul. It's been my honor, and I've really enjoyed this. And I didn't blush. Ha.
We'll see about that. Bye, everyone.
Well, that's a wrap. You have been listening to yet another episode of the Release the Genie podcast with host Paul Rogers. Be sure to follow Paul on the LinkedIn platform and learn more of Paul's resources at www.takeactionacademy.ca. And until next time, as always, be mindful and be sure to release your Genie. Thanks for listening.